So to, say, the theoretical Protestant listening who says, okay, I'm convinced on this topic, this doctrine, and this doctrine, but I don't feel equally convinced on every doctrine the church tells me I have to believe, and that's what's holding me back from becoming Catholic, because they think they have to feel equally convinced on every topic or every doctrine. What do you say?
I'd say you don't have to feel. Number one, emotions really aren't where it's at. You shouldn't be guided by your emotions. You should be guided by the gift of reason that God gave you. Now, emotions can provide some coloring support in this, but the fundamental determination needs to be made by reason. And if you see that sola scriptura is false and that the Catholic Church's paradigm for formulating doctrine is correct, and then you see it work a bunch of times, reason, taking emotion out of it, reason would dictate, well, you can and should trust this. And just like if you were a Jewish person and you saw the Christian paradigm for formulating doctrine works, and they're right in bunches of things that they're claiming that are distinctive, Christian distinctives, well, then at some point you need to make a leap of faith and say, reason says I need to become a Christian, even if I'm not emotionally comfortable with every single thing Christians say. I can still intellectually have confidence in it and entrust myself to the Christian message. And the same exact principles apply to becoming Catholic. It's a great thing to just have emotional confidence in everything and have the warm fuzzies around every single teaching and say, oh, this doctrine is so beautiful, this is wonderful, I love this. And maybe you get those emotions, and maybe you don't, because God doesn't promise us emotional experiences in this life. So what we have to be guided by is our knowledge of the truth. And if the truth is that you recognize the legitimacy of the Catholic way of formulating doctrine, and you recognize that this leads to truth in all these different areas, then at some point you reach a conclusion that, I don't need to be able to independently prove every single little point in order to become a Catholic, because I can trust this. The same way, if you were a Jewish person in the first century, you don't need to say, hey, I need to independently prove every single point of Christian doctrine before I can become a Christian. At some point, you trust yourself. That's what faith is. And so at some point you see enough evidence that it makes making an act of faith, making a leap of faith, to use Kierkegaard's phrase, the legitimate and proper thing to do.
Okay. Is there a situation in which you would say to somebody, you're right to not become Catholic at this point in time because you believe this doctrine the Catholic Church teaches to be evil or contrary to revelation?
Well, I'd have to qualify the sense in which saying it's right not to become a Catholic, because ultimately, as a Catholic, I would say everybody should be. It's not right to not be, but you do need to have the fundamentals in place. So let's say someone says, oh boy, I believe that there's a God, and I believe that Jesus is really present in the Eucharist, and I believe in purgatory, and I believe in all these Catholic things. I just don't think Jesus happens to be God. Well, okay, you're not ready to become Catholic, because the divinity of Christ is an infallible teaching, and it's a core infallible teaching. And so I would say it's great that you're interested in becoming Catholic. Let me help you on this divinity of Christ issue, because we need to get over that. Until you're able to accept the divinity of Christ, though, you should not present yourself to be received into the church. But let's work on that issue.
If you like that clip, be sure to like and subscribe. Cheers.